I have a new thought of the day. This one is on our friendly neighborhood coronavirus. Just had a lot of thoughts these past few days, reading a bunch of articles and keeping up with the news and being in it with, coworkers and friends and everything. That's just anything anyone's talking about because it's so, prevalent everywhere. And it's a big issue, but I just had a few thoughts on it that I wanted to kind of discuss. And first is the obvious is how people are reacting to the coronavirus in general. Just for posterity's sake, a lot of people are panicking. I've heard both sides of it, that we are simultaneously as a society overreacting to the coronavirus but also underreacting. So how we're obviously underreacting because some of these countries like Italy or Iran or those places where they were kind of downplaying it and didn't really address it until later, they got hit really hard with the the curve of preventing that curve by mitigating and isolating and whatnot. And so they kind of downplayed it, and now they're getting hit hard for that. Now the whole country's in lockdown. And so that's a big deal. And so we're underreacting because we should all be taking precautions. I think I saw some articles or posts how like Singapore or like Taiwan or some places like that handle it really well, and how they have really low amount of cases or whatnot or deaths. And so that's a good thing. But we're obviously also clearly overreacting. I posted a video of the Daily Show, Trevor Noah talking about how people were fighting over toilet paper and water. And he was saying how it makes sense that people are fighting over, necessities like water and food. People think that there's going to be a scarcity of supply, which I don't think it is, because there's always been a supply of those things. But like fighting over toilet paper, and he's like, it's ridiculous how people in first world countries don't know what to panic about. Because he's like, dude, toilet paper, we go without toilet paper for a long time in third world countries and we're fine. It's like, oh no, how am I supposed to wipe my butt in this place with a shower, So it's hilarious. But it's crazy how people are buying things, like selling out Costco's and Targets and Walmarts and everything. And I don't think it needs to be like that. I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. People are creating this scarcity in supply because people think that there's a scarcity of supply, so they're buying up more supply. So it's an overreaction. But I think the social distancing, where we're kind of like, canceling events and all these other things, yeah, it sucks. Canceling sports games, all that, concerts and whatnot, it sucks. I personally don't have no investment because I haven't been booking anything, but yeah, I get it, it sucks, but it's for the better, it's for the good of everyone. I think it's like, again, it's mitigating the risk. The potential downside of not doing it is way greater than the downside of doing it, right? Social distancing. But I think it's just kind of crazy because, and then, for the last month, people have been buying these masks and, those masks that protect against coronavirus. But then medical professionals are saying, no, the masks don't actually do anything. You'd have to be very airtight, and most people don't use it the right way. And in reality, the best way to protect yourself is to just wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, cough into your sleeve. Just common sense things. Use hand sanitizer if you don't have access to soap and water, and save the masks for the medical professionals who actually need it because it was creating a shortage. So again, it's just people acting out of fear and scarcity. And I get that, but I think people need to start using logic and listening to the medical professionals saying, this is what you should be doing. If you just take these precautions and distance yourself from people and practice good hygiene, you'll be fine. But people end up just buying a bunch of toilet paper and bottled water. It's like, dude, water's gonna be fine. We're not in a shortage of water. It's not a nuclear meltdown. It's just a sickness, but we'll get through it. Yeah, and I think this is another thought is that this is an experiment in, like a social experiment, I feel like, on how we handle situations like this. And apparently it seems like we're kind of failing just based on the response, and it's kind of understandable, but also kind of ridiculous for some people. We're just like, dude, why are people acting this way? You don't need to do that. And it's about empathy. There are some people in camps that are like, well, if I die, then I die, because they're like millennials and younger kids who are taking advantage of all the cheap airline flights. And that's cool, it makes sense. But they're like, I'm healthy, so I should be fine even if I get it. That's true, you probably will, most people probably will, but you don't want to get it because you can accidentally infect other people, like the elderly who are most susceptible to that, or people with pre-existing conditions. So that's the reason why you just got to be considerate of others. It's not all about you. So this whole like YOLO mentality is kind of ridiculous. It's all about empathy, coming together, not being scarcity, helping each other out, making sure that we're not wiping out the supply of soap and hand sanitizer, because if you hoard and stockpile those things, then everyone else around you can't have those soap and water, or soap and hand sanitizer, and then everyone's gonna get sick. Sickness is kind of like one of those things where if we don't come together and, you know, act on the same in the same way, in the same page, then we're all going to get sick. Because if you're just hoarding for yourself, you're more likely to get sick if everyone else doesn't have access to those things, right? I do appreciate how a lot of pretty much every company that I'm on an email list for, from airlines to food places like Starbucks or drink places, to even like Uber, Lyft, hotels, other businesses, escape rooms, they're emailing saying, hey, like, with this outbreak, we want to address concerns that, you know, we're stepping up our cleaning to like 5 to 6 hours a day. We clean in between each thing, or, you know, we're reinforcing our policies of staying home if you're sick. And some places like Lyft and like DoorDash or something, they're like, yeah, even we'll be helping out people, you know, our contractors who are hit most, because if there's less business going on and they can't work, and if they can't work, they can't feed their families, and so they're like offering these assistance or paid time leave for sick people, and helping to pay for testing and whatnot. Like, that's what we should be doing as a society and as companies. Being responsible, you know, parts of our society and community is looking out for each other. And on that note, it's kind of funny because, like, this brings up universal healthcare, right? Because we talk about this with the whole election cycle coming on in the Democratic primary, and, you know, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and Donald Trump. But this whole universal healthcare thing, people were like, you know, what's the socialist thing? But then you look at it, now we're having this epic health pandemic, and it's like, guys, universal healthcare, Medicare for all, would actually solve this, because now people would have access to healthcare, and they could get sick and get time off and leave and everything like that. And then they wouldn't be spreading this to other people, because they don't have access to affordable healthcare, they can't go to the hospital, they can't take off work. You know, we don't have paid medical leave, sick leave in this country, and because we don't have those policies, we're more likely to get sick. So universal healthcare would resolve these things, or at least mitigate a lot of it, which doesn't make sense. You know, like, guys, you're saying this is so radical, but this is it's almost like this is a wake-up call of, hey, this is like God's way of saying, guys, this is a good idea, here's a pandemic, and let me show you how. But I don't know, people aren't really picking onto that. But, and it, like I said, it affects for people like myself. We work, like, you know, white collar jobs, or like, you know, professional type jobs in the office, or we have the ability to work from home. I'm grateful and fortunate enough to be able to do that. However, a lot of blue collar workers and service industry people, they don't have that opportunity, and it sucks, because if those businesses slow down because people aren't coming in, and then either their hours get cut, or, you know, they're gonna have to find employment elsewhere, or if they're drivers, right? It's just it's harder for them, and it exposes the flaw in our system. And then lastly, climate change. So the last point I wanted to touch about is, like, wouldn't it be crazy if we actually reacted to climate change and pollution the same way that we do to this virus? I get it that it's because this pandemic is a more immediate and visible thing, that it's people more likely to take steps to protect themselves. But climate change is more of a intangible thing. You can't really see. You can argue the connections between climate change and all these natural disasters, whatever. Obviously, the science doesn't say that. The science backs it up, but it's not like because because I'm polluting the environment, or because I put this policy that saves this oil company millions of dollars, you don't see the immediate effects of you contracting a disease that could fatally kill you. You know, like, that's fatal. So I get it, but it's just stupid, because if we all as a world came together and reacted the same way that we do to coronavirus as climate change, I feel like we'd be in a lot better spot. So those are my thoughts of the day. The general thought is on coronavirus and what's going on right now. But yeah, just basically those things. But something to think about, to stay safe, and hopefully we can look back on this and become better as people and as a society, and address things better and have more empathy, and don't act in fear but act in logic and